Class 4 antiarrhythmic medications are calcium channel blockers. Calcium channel blockers. They constitute two medications that you have to know: verapamil and diltiazem. They constitute two medications that you have to know: verapamil and diltiazem. All right. What do you need to remember about these medications? When you block calcium channels, let's look at the SA node, AV node, action potential plot and see what we have. This, right? This is what it usually, or they look like generally. This is what they look like generally. If you remember the labeling we gave here before, we gave this to phase 4, 0, 3, and back to 4. I hope you remember that from previous lectures that we had: phase 4, phase 0, phase 3, and back to phase 4. We had said previously that phase 1 and 2 that you had with your myocardial action potential, we are missing here. All right, so that is class 4 antiarrhythmic medications. When someone takes these medications, what changes do we expect to see? Or what changes do we actually see? First, there is a slow rise of action potential. If you remember what we said before, phase 0 and phase 4, actually, phase 4 was calcium channels. Phase 0 was also predominantly calcium channels. So you can imagine that the slope of phase 0 here is going to be less steep. So instead of going up in this manner, it's going to go up in this manner. Slower or less steep phase 4. And then we actually have prolonged repolarization at the AV node. So it takes longer for us to have the movement of action potential across the AV node altogether. It takes longer to form the first slope. It takes longer to repolarize the cell. That's what you want to remember here. So right here, what you need to take note of is that there's a slow rise of action potential. And what you notice here is this dip. And we said our dip is always due to potassium. And this will be prolonged repolarization of the AV node. Prolonged repolarization of the AV node. The next thing you want to know about this medication is the effect. So if it's causing a slow rise in action potential, prolonging repolarization of the AV node, what do you expect to happen to the PR interval? We said the PR interval is what? AV node, that the time between AV nodal depolarization and ventricular depolarization. So if AV nodal activity is decreased or prolonged, what happens to the PR interval? You expect the PR interval to also be prolonged. So we have prolonged PR interval. What should happen to the effective refractory period? Well, we went from having this perhaps to having something this long. So we expect that our effective refractory period is also going to be increased. What can you say about the ability of the AV node in this case to conduct action potential? Is it increased or decreased? I think we can agree that there is decrease in conduction. I mean, if you're supposed to conduct at this rate and it's taking you this much longer to conduct, now we know we can say there's decreased conduction velocity at the AV node. Decreased conduction velocity at the AV node. You want to remember these information for calcium channel blockers. But even more important than that is their side effect. What are the side effects of calcium channel blockers? Constipation. Calcium and constipation I'm sure you've heard that a lot, even from endocrinology. Flushing can occur. Edema, peripheral edema, might occur. There may be, obviously, there will be severe depression because you're slowing down the AV node. And if you remember from what we did before, whenever you're slowing down the AV node, you could slow it down too much and the patient will develop an AV block. You could slow it down even further and give them a heart failure. And of course, we can have sinus nodal depression. So SA node depression, AV node depression. You want to remember this information for calcium channel blockers. What do we use this medication for? Do they have application anywhere? Obviously, we use them for atrial fibrillation, and we also use them to prevent supraventricular tachycardia. You want to remember these medications. Very easy. Class 4 antiarrhythmics, calcium channel blockers, verapamil and diltiazem. Verapamil and diltiazem. Do you know the difference between verapamil and diltiazem and the other calcium channel blockers? Do you remember that the other calcium channel blockers are dihydropyridine medications, whereas verapamil and diltiazem are non-dihydropyridine medications? So remember that. It's often confusing for a lot of students, but remember that verapamil and diltiazem are non-dihydropyridine medications. Just imagine we have more dihydropyridine medications, and these ones are the outcasts. There are just 2 of them, right? So they are non-dihydropyridine. All right, I'll see you in the next video.